Another mock test for you, literature in English. Let's read the questions quickly, solve the questions on your own, and then we'll discuss the answers a little later. The full marks is 20. There are 20 questions and I'll discuss some other questions as well. I'll try to clear some doubts. Ascertain the reason why Kate Chopin withheld the first name of Mrs. Mallard in the beginning of the story of an hour. This is the first question, and now the options. To highlight the identity crisis that a woman suffers post-marriage. The second option, to highlight the fact that she is married. The third option, to prevent the readers from sympathizing with Mrs. Mallard. And the fourth option, to highlight the protagonist's willing subjugation and her fondness for being called so, that is Mrs. Mallard. These are the four options. Now, what is the right answer? While you are solving this question, I would like to point out one doubt. How many characters are there in the story of an hour? There are 4 characters in accordance with the question provided in the ISC specimen paper. I would have loved to take the doctors into consideration as well as minor characters, but since it's given in your specimen paper, I'll go with 4 characters. There are 4 characters in the story of an hour: Richards, Josephine, Brentley Mallard, and Mrs. Mallard. It's time for the second question now. There was something coming to her and she was waiting for it fearfully. What is the probable implication of this line? Probable implication. What does this line suggest? There was something coming to her and she was waiting for it fearfully. Mrs. Mallard was a coy, meek, docile woman. Mrs. Mallard was apprehensive and worried unnecessarily. Mrs. Mallard's complex thought process as she comes in terms with the tragedy that shakes her very being. Or Mrs. Mallard is thinking about social pressures faced by a newly widowed woman. Here again, try to find out the right answer, the most appropriate response to this question. Yes, I'm waiting for you. So, let's move on to the next question, the third question. Which of the following is an example of oxymoron? Running riot, monstrous joy, delicious breath, or storm of grief? Take a pick. Oxymoron. Which one? Yes? Come on. The next one now. What was Brentley Mallard's reaction as he opened the front door and entered the house? Amazement, anger, annoyance, or confusion? What was Brentley Mallard's reaction as he opened the front door and entered the house? These are the 4 probable reactions. Which one is the most appropriate reaction according to the text? The next question now. Whom did Brentley Mallard find as he entered through the front door? Richards, doctors, Josephine, Richards. Whom did he find? There was a dull stare in Mrs. Mallard's eyes, whose gaze was fixed away off yonder on one of those patches of blue sky. This glance indicated dash, brief moment of illumination, a suspension of intelligent thought, reflection, paralyzed inability. These are your 4 options. What came with the man's newfound peace of mind? To Build a Fire by Jack London. Panic, death with dignity, first glimmerings of drowsiness, or endurance. What came with the man's newfound peace of mind? What literary device is used in the expression winged Mercury? Alliteration, simile, allusion, or flashback? Winged Mercury. Again, it's in the story To Build a Fire. The next one. When Mrs. Mallard thought about her married life, she felt dash for husband, love, hatred, fear, or jealousy. What is the right answer? Now, this question was there for your pre-boards examination in some schools. I thought of discussing this. This must be easy for you because you have already attempted this question. So, quickly moving on to the next question. How many sulfur matches fled into flame at once to build a fire? 20, 80, 75, 70. One of the simplest questions, easiest questions of the lot. 20, 80, 75 or 70. And now, why was the dog disappointed in To Build a Fire? The man was dead. The man took the creek trail up the left fork. The fire provider had failed, or the man tried to poke it out with his fingers. These are the four options. Which of the following features of naturalism is evident in To Build a Fire? Primacy of instincts, detached observation, religiosity, or options 1 and 2, primacy of instincts and detached observation. Now, I have shared the features of naturalism in the description box of the explanatory video of To Build a Fire. Kindly check it. Primacy of instincts, detached observation, religiosity, or options 1 and 2. Which time of the day is mentioned at the end of To Build a Fire? Dawn, twilight, noon, or midnight? This question is interesting. I'm sure all of you know this answer. Come on, do it quickly. The next one now. Why does the title, The Darkling Thrush, seem to suggest a contradiction? The thrush seems to be hopeless and gloomy, but actually the speaker is hopeless and gloomy. The thrush sings a song and the speaker does not understand it. The thrush presents optimism and hope for the future, but ironically it is an aged, weak thrush, or options 1 and 3. The title, The Darkling Thrush. Yes? Read the options, you will get the answer. So, now the next question, another one, asked by one of our subscribers, our students. Mooncalf, speak once in thy life if thou beest a good mooncalf. Who is the mooncalf here? Stefano, Caliban, Ariel, or Ferdinand? Who is mooncalf? Act 3, Scene 2, The Tempest. So, now, what is the purpose in do not for one repulse forego the purpose that you resolved to effect? Regicide, fratricide, massacre, or regicide, fratricide? So, regicide is the killing of the king. Fratricide is when somebody kills one's brothers or sisters. Massacre, you know. And the fourth option, both regicide and fratricide, and I hope you have identified the speaker of these lines. If you have identified the speaker, then answering this question is going to be really easy. So, I hope you know the right answer. I will be thy second. Who is the speaker? Stefano, Sebastian, Gonzalo or Antonio? These are your options. And the next question, how many fires did the man build? 4, 3, 2 or 5? I had asked this question yesterday and many of you gave me the right answer. So this is going to be easy. Moving on to the next question, which figures of speech are used in climbing carefully with the same pains you use to fill a cup, up to the brim and even above the brim? Alliteration, simile, metaphor, simile, simile, hyperbole, alliteration, metaphor. Read the lines carefully and then identify the figures of speech. Who wrote Crossing the Bar? The last question. Alfred Lord Tennyson, Robert Frost, Thomas Hardy or Jack London? This question is the simplest of the lot, so I am not going to give you any more time. Ascertain the reason why Kate Chopin withheld the first name of Mrs. Mallard in the beginning of the story of an hour. The right answer is to highlight the identity crisis that a woman suffers post-marriage. Yes, this also highlights the fact that she is married, but the most appropriate response is the first option, to highlight the identity crisis that a woman suffers post-marriage. And later we see that Josephine addresses her as Louis, self-assertion, identity, only after the probable death of her husband, after she realizes that she has found a newfound freedom. Next one. There was something coming to her and she was waiting for it fearfully. What is the probable implication of this line? The probable implication is Mrs. Mallard's complex thought process as she comes in terms with the tragedy that shakes her very being. As discussed, this story traces the psychological complexities faced by Mrs. Mallard, who is a newly widowed woman. At that point of time, they knew that Bentley Mallard was dead. The next one. Which of the following is an example of oxymoron? It's monstrous, joy. How can joy be monstrous? Opposites. What was Bentley Mallard's reaction as he opened the front door and entered the house? He was amazed at Josephine's piercing cry. The next one. Whom did Bentley Mallard find as he entered through the front door? Josephine and Richards. Mrs. Mallard was not there. The doctors came in a little later. There was a dull stare in Mrs. Mallard's eyes, whose gaze was fixed away off yonder on one of those patches of blue sky. This glance indicated a suspension of intelligent thought. It was not one of reflection. The next one. What came with the man's newfound peace of mind? First, glimmerings of drowsiness. What literary device is used in the expression winged Mercury? It is an allusion to the Roman god Mercury, associated with travelers. The next one. When Mrs. Mallard thought about her married life, she felt dash for husband. She felt love for husband. How many sulfur matches flared into flame at once? 70, clearly mentioned in the text. The next one. Why was the dog disappointed in to build a fire? Because the man took the creek trail up the left fork. The dog would have to follow the man, and the dog yearned back toward the fire. He wanted to be close to the fire. The next one. Which of the following features of naturalism is evident in To Build a Fire? Options 1 and 2, primacy of instincts, detached observation. Which time of the day is mentioned at the end of To Build a Fire, twilight, symbolizing the end of the man's life, and literal meaning is the end of the day, the end of the brief day. The next one, why does the title The Darkling Thrush seem to suggest a contradiction? Options 1 and 3 is the right answer. The thrush seems to be hopeless and gloomy, but actually in reality the speaker is hopeless and gloomy, and the thrush presents optimism and hope for the future, but ironically it is an aged, weak thrush. The next one, moon calf, speak once in thy life if thou beest a good moon calf. Who is the moon calf? Caliban. What is the purpose in do not for one repulse forego the purpose that you resolved to effect? Regicide, fratricide. Both Antonio and Sebastian conspire against Alonso, and Alonso is the king, so it's regicide and fratricide because Sebastian is Alonso's brother. I will be thy second. Who is the speaker? The speaker is Antonio. How many fires did the man build? Yes, 3 times. 3 fires. The first one, he soon had a roaring fire, page 41. And the next one, page 43, for the fire was beginning to burn with strength. And then after a while, the fire was blotted out as a result of the man's mistake. The third fire was when the blazing matches fell sizzling into the snow, but the birch bark was alight. Page number 47, and we will not take into consideration the fire. The burning brimstone went up his nostrils and into his lungs, causing him to cough spasmodically. The match fell into the snow and went out. We will not take this into consideration as a successful fire. In fact, as a fire. Who wrote Crossing the Bar? Alfred Lord Tennyson. My dear girls and boys, how much did you get? Yes? And all the best and prepare well. Bye.